So Michigan wins the Natty due to its secret plan. No, not Connor Stallions. The secret plan of stockpiling NFL talent and then bulldozing everybody from, first week of September on. It's the same plan, by the way, Georgia had used in the previous 2 years. LSU before them, Alabama before them, years ago USC. It's a very secretive plan. Yeah, the team with the most talent won. Again, in college football. Jim Harbaugh is an elite all-time coach. College, no question. Pro, I think eventually. His critics were silly, blowhards, not really connected, had agendas. And after watching the entire night last night, beginning to end, I thought to myself, it's time for Jim to go to the NFL. I didn't think that before the game. But near the end, his brother's there, family's there. When he had equal talent, he beat Saban. When he had equal talent, he beat Ryan Day 3 straight times. He didn't have that at Stanford. He didn't have that at San Diego. And he didn't have that initially at Michigan. They lost to Michigan State early a few times. But years and years and years of recruiting and structure, and they had equal talent. Better than, slightly less than, it was at least equal. And he beat everybody. It's time to face Sean McVay and Kyle Shanahan and Andy Reid and maybe once again your brother, the best of the best. I watched Pete Carroll get bored with college football. I watched Jimmy Johnson say, I need new challenges. The NCAA, and I love college football, but they're silly. The transfer portal, I'm for it, bit of a mess. Isn't it time for him to compete against the best and not worry about beating Rutgers, Maryland, or Purdue's head coach? He's above that, and that's no shot at them. He's an elite all-timer. And Jim Harbaugh thrives under structure. That's what he brought to Michigan. Structure. Relentless structure. Repetitive structure. And college football doesn't provide that. They don't provide it. The sport makes like $6 billion a year. They don't have a CEO. They don't have a president. They don't have a schedule maker. You just kind of make your own schedule. It's nonsense. And I love the sport. Michigan was not a top 5 program when he got there. They are the best program now. They are. That was not a top 5 team ever. I don't think they have the wide receiver talent of Georgia the last couple of years, or certainly of LSU a few years ago. But they were so Harbaugh. They were so Big Ten. They were so resilient. They were just the perfect Jim Harbaugh team. They were those Stanford teams with better players. They were the 49er teams without quite that NFL talent. Tough, great tackling, relentless, physical, committed, details, almost no penalties. I watched that game last night and I thought, it's time, coach. You did it. You brought Michigan back. They deserved it. Clearly the best team with that covert plan of recruiting and developing elite talent and then bulldozing people. Yeah, some plan, the one everybody uses. But sometimes it's harder to win at Michigan. You've got a great rival in Ohio State. The weather's colder, sometimes harder to convince the Texas, California, Florida kid to come up north. But over time he did. And there is no question. He is at the mountaintop of college football today and has absolutely earned it. Now, go get a ring in the big boy league. Tip of the cap. He does it his way. He's disruptive. He makes many uncomfortable. And when people can't beat somebody, they need an excuse because mirrors still work, but nobody wants to look at them. Jim Harbaugh out-recruited you, outsmarted you, out-physicaled you, out-relentless you, out-thought you, and he'll now leave or stay on his terms. That's the way it should be. All right, what about Michael Penix? He didn't play very well last night. Well, Michael Penix, we've talked about this, his NFL comp is Tua. Let me ask you, how does Tua perform when he's pressured, hurried, doesn't have great protection. Tua looks like a guy. He looks really average. And that's what Michael Penix looked like. Michael Penix is not Lamar Jackson or Josh Allen. He's not Steve Young. He's not Brett Favre. He's a statuesque, beautiful pocket passer. Goff, Tua, Matt Ryan, and all of them under duress erode quickly. They don't have a second gear. Michael used to when he ran, but he's got medical issues, a history that scares GMs. Now, last night didn't help Michael Penix, but NFL scouts have always been concerned about the previous medical stuff, and they never considered him to be in the same league as Caleb Williams. I talk to executives in the league often. I text them. I ask, Caleb Williams is going number one. Like a Trevor Lawrence or Andrew Luck, it's over. He's going number one. Michael Penix is going to be like almost all these kids drafted out of college, as successful as where he lands. If he goes to an Atlanta with a top 6 offensive line, tight end, running back, receiver I like, wonky division, gets an offensive coach, that'd be kind of interesting. Tua, Miami, offensive coach, good weapons. Tua's pretty interesting with that. But Tua wouldn't work in cold weather with a bad receiving core, have to carry them and run for his life with a defensive coach. He's just not special enough. Michael Penix, for a college quarterback behind a good O-line, great coach, great receivers, is a wonderful player. But Michigan had much better players. Recruiting is still the name of the game, and Washington is geographically isolated. I grew up there in the Pacific Northwest. Idaho, Oregon surround them. Michigan, bigger brand, more centralized, the middle of America, bigger conference, Big Ten's got better players. So the windows last night for Michael Penix were brief and tiny. For the record, last night doesn't help him, but Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes were regularly losing games in college, bad and wildly inconsistent. Michael Penix is a franchise quarterback. Could be late first, second, third. I don't know. I think you got to consider taking all these guys early because the sport now is so based on coach and quarterback play. But fit matters. Let me ask you, think J.J. McCarthy would have led Iowa State to the Natty? Or do you think Harbaugh mattered and Michigan's O-line and run game mattered? I know we want to create messiahs. That's the Western religion. We look up in the sky. Eastern religion, we look inward. We could borrow some of that from time to time. These aren't superstars. They're not gods. They're not messiahs. They're kids. Where you land matters. Your coach matters. Your protection matters. The division matters. The GM matters. Michael Penix is going to be a fine NFL player like Tua if he lands with a right coach. Tua didn't even leave the zip code of the neighborhood. Defensive coach, struggled. Offensive coach, Pro Bowl. Sometimes it's just that simple. Michael Penix will be fine. Last night didn't drop him to the 4th round. Certainly didn't help. But what he is what Goff, Tua, Matt Ryan are. A beautiful thrower of the football. Where he lands, his coordinator, protection, and receivers will overwhelmingly dictate his professional success. Great kid, great future, great year for the team I grew up loving, the Washington Huskies. But last night, Michigan was a different class, and you saw it 6 minutes into the football game. Huskies will be just fine going forward as they transition now to the Big Ten. I said last night in my podcast, I said the difference between that game is Washington had a style and Michigan had a style. Harbaugh made that look like a Big Ten game. That looked like a Michigan game. Washington wanted it to look like that game against USC or those games against Oregon or Arizona in shootouts. Harbaugh said, no, we're not going to do that. We're going to make it a Michigan Big Ten game. And that's what it was for 3.5 hours. Hi, everybody. Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from The Herd or go watch a few segments from other shows on FS1.